You may find yourself living in a teardrop trailer. And you may find yourself in another part of the world. And you may ask yourself, well, how did I get here?
So, episode 3, part 2 of How Did I Get Here When Things Fail? What the fuck? A little backup in what was going on is at the beginning of December, Tozy, my baby dog, started having seizures, and that was the most terrifying thing in the world to see and to be afraid for her. And she's my soulmate, and I felt it deep in me when she was scared and anxious and having the seizures. And so that was kind of happening on top of me being sick, and then the affair. My oldest dog, my therapy dog, had mouth cancer that was spreading down her throat, and so she was on her way out. And that's ultimately how they ended up getting together. My ex-husband and the person that he had the affair with was talking about my dog, and I was, at the time, we had a farmhouse, a small, mini farm, homestead that we had been working on and building for 5 years, with lots of animals. Probably about 100 if you count all the chickens and ducks, and there were rabbits and a lot of dogs and cats and a pig, and acres of gardens, vegetable, flower, herb, fruit trees, mini orchard, and so at the time, that's what I was doing. I was running that. I was maintaining kind of the homestead and working in that way, not really a job, but definitely sun up to sundown, constant maintenance, and tending and everything, farming, and for us, and that's how we wanted to live, was to eventually get off grid. And so while he was working, I was working on making that happen. So I didn't have a job. I didn't have my own income. I didn't have really much going on. I had my business still, like my soap and herbal stuff, but it was such a small community, small town, that what I was doing, I was selling online, and it got to the point where I couldn't do all of it. I was getting really busy online, and I just didn't have time to do everything I needed to do. So I had to kind of shut that down for a little bit because it got too busy. And then, especially during harvest season and things like that. So then it was around that time, harvest season, where I started getting really sick. And then we roll into the beginning of December, Tozy's seizures, the affair at the end, and then we roll into January, where I approach him, and I'm in this really depressed state, detached from my body. It's winter in Indiana, it's cold, it's damp, and you know, it was one of the coldest winters that we had too, so it was negative 14, and we were running out of firewood, and so I'm in this state where I'm not really there. I'm just kind of obsessing in my head. My OCD is going crazy, like replaying this scenario. Like, how did this happen? Why did this happen? How could he have done this? You know, and replaying over and over and over, and trying to find a way to be able to move past it and to be able to move forward, because that was what he wanted, was to, you know, move forward. You know, he realized he made a mistake, and I was really trying, and I had a surgery scheduled for the middle of February, so, you know, I knew that I had to have that done on his insurance, and I knew that I didn't have a plan if I left. I had no money, I had no anything, you know, on my own. So I was really struggling with being okay with staying, and kind of numbing myself to the point where, you know, it didn't matter what he did, and just living my life there. And I guess being okay with that's how my life was going to be. Although I knew that image and that story, and that the fact that he didn't even think about it, I didn't even cross his mind, you know, would never leave me. It would always haunt me. It would always be back there in the back of my mind. Toward the end of January, Shira, my oldest dog, she had to be put down. She couldn't swallow. She couldn't stand on her own. Her hips were so bad. It was getting to the point where, you know, it was time. She was suffering. She was in pain, and I was still so dissociated from everything that I never really got the chance to say goodbye to her properly, or you know, give her the love and attention that I thought that she should have after being my dog for 13 years and my therapy dog and just my best friend and with me all the time, and also being with her and, you know, being affectionate toward her always brought up the memory of, you know, the affair and how they bonded over her being sick and dying, and, you know, he was playing that, like, oh, poor me, my dying dog story, you know, when it was my baby. And so when it came time to take her to be put down, she didn't want to go. She was crying, like there were actual tears running down her face. I brought Tozy with me because I needed her with me. And I didn't go in. Addie wouldn't even look at me. You know, she didn't want to go. And she was mad. She was mad at me. You know, and that's I'm still really upset with myself for letting it happen that way, and for you know, not being more attentive to her because of what I was feeling about a different situation. And I knew that she was really mad. You know, she came out in a blanket, put her in the trunk of the car, and when we pulled into the driveway of the house, all of the sudden, all the electric in the car shut off. And that had never happened before. To get into the trunk, it's like a touch electric system. You can't get in otherwise. And so it wouldn't turn on, the trunk wouldn't open, nothing. And I was like, oh, she's pissed. That's her energy. You know, she didn't want to go. She was mad at me for not being with her when she was suffering. And I'm mad at myself for not being there when she was suffering. And, you know, I had this other dog that needed me because she was having seizures, and I had 8 other dogs, I think, that, you know, everyone needed something, and I wasn't there for anybody really, because I was dissociated and obsessing in my head and trying to keep running through scenarios where I could move on, or what my choices were, or how I could stay, how I could leave. Anyway, the car wouldn't turn on, lights, nothing. So we went inside, and a little bit later looked outside, and all the lights are on in the car. Interior, headlights, everything. So we're able to open the trunk, get her out, and put her in the hole that was dug when it was frozen. And it defrosted a few days later, and it ended up being on a spring. So that was a mess. And, you know, it was just that she just kept coming back in a way, like in some sort of way. She was saying, you know, I needed more. I wasn't ready to let go. And I think at that time it was just easier for me to let her go. And, you know, that's something that eats at me all the time, every day. So yeah, we'll stop this session or episode 3, part 2 of when things fail there. Didn't get very far in the story, but I'll do another one soon.
Let the days go by, let the water hold me down. Let the days go by, water flowing underground into the blue again. After the money's gone, once in a lifetime, water flowing underground.